What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy, and I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby. We're going to be talking about the Week 11 NFL slate. It's going to be it's an interesting slate to say the least. Only 10 games, much smaller than we've seen in recent weeks. We've had a 13 game or in a 12 gamer. So, looking at this slate, there's also one of the things that really stood out to me after I started looking at the sheet was it's one of the highest five totals that I've seen so far. We only have one game over 50. So I'll let you get into that and tell us about that and the weather.
Yeah, the most notable game is the 49ers and Bucks, which is the one over 50. It's at 51 right now. Buccaneers have allowed 30 points in 5 straight games. They're a pass funnel. They just played Kansas City, so it's a short week. San Fran's off a bye, so they should be getting Christian McCaffrey back. Debo should be a little more rested and healthy. Jawan Jennings should be back. So they're kind of getting a little healthier and all kind of modestly priced. So that one's a fun one to talk about. Then Jacksonville, Minnesota is an interesting one that I don't know if many people are going to get to the Jacksonville side, but that's where a ton of the value is. Vikings, you pretty much know who's going to touch the ball. It's going to be Justin Jefferson, who's probably the highest highest price skill player on the slate. Aaron Jones has been really well. His price really hasn't moved. So he's basically a $5 running back on the road. And then Jordan Addison caught a touchdown this past week to get back to his winning ways. And TJ Hawkinson returned, limited on snaps, probably will stay there for that a couple of weeks. I'm going to wait to buy his dip when it comes to that point. But then a bunch of 46 totals. So you got Atlanta and the Saints. Saints just kind of trading away guys. They're falling apart. Atlanta is kind of hitting it on the right head this time. They played them close last time about a month ago.
Right.
Bills and Colts, good game environment for both teams. Jets Cardinals also at 46. Contrarian game of the week. There's also a Steelers Commanders game at 46. So that one I think will be the least popular to play based on the skill players. And then the Eagles Cowboys, which we thought would be the game of the week, but Dak is now working to go to IR or will at least miss multiple games. So I don't really know how to treat that one. Then in addition to that, AJ Brown going down and being an unknown with his knee injury.
Yep. A lot of fun things. Is there any weather issues? I don't believe so, right?
It's also, we're recording this as a Tuesday, so not much to note right now. Last week there wasn't really anything until all of a sudden, Detroit's going to be
that game is crazy.
So
for sure.
Usually weather, that's kind of a Discord thing. What we'll talk on Sunday mornings about that'll kind of have a clearer picture of things. But right now, I would just kind of treat everything as is.
Beautiful. Then let's start talking about it. Already pulled up because I'm trying to be proactive is the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is going to be our first stud on this slate. There's not very many quarterbacks. You only have 5 quarterbacks written down for me this week, which is
better at that.
Well, that's great.
It's also a 10-game slate, and also a bunch of growth. Even though I did name 7 games, none of them are just like, oh yeah,
I want that game. Yeah, no, for sure. But no, I think this is great. Looking at it, we have 2 studs, a mid tier, and a couple of puke stack guys. First one up though is Josh Allen. Kind of talking through their team, looking at it. 2 running backs on the board, James Cook and Ray Davis. Both have to be talked about because Ray Davis is sniping, rushing touchdowns because he is the better goal line back, not named Josh Allen, I guess, in this offense. And then you have multiple receiving options. You're never sure in this offense who's going to get the ball other than maybe Khalil Shakur is like the guy that we're really going to have to go to if we're going to play this.
So Mark Cooper, his wrist injury held him out, but he was limited all week. So I would expect it to be a short-term injury to where he should play.
Right.
I would actually be shocked if he missed this game once again. But Keon Coleman himself went down with a wrist injury that he's getting an MRI on, and there's not really a status because practices haven't started this week.
Yeah.
But at least one of them being out would help me be a little bit more confident in investing in somebody. Don't really have a lean on who. Dalton Kincaid just doesn't get the targets he should.
Well, he finally did last week,
or the last 2 weeks, but he's just still not doing what we thought he would be. But a lot of that's just the lack of usage.
Yeah.
But it is worth noting that Indy, basically every game that is not a terrible quarterback, they've allowed 300 yards or 3 touchdowns coming off of Sunday Night Football. Sam Darnold going for 290 and 3 scores. CJ Stroud went for 285. We also had puke stacks with way back when with Justin Fields, who
Right.
won us a lot of money doing that. Caleb Williams also went for 300. Trevor Lawrence also went for 300. But then they ran into some ugly quarterbacks that they kind of made it seem like their ranking is better than it is.
I love attacking Indy. I mean, it's always my go-to. They're one of the Carnival defenses this year, which makes it so much fun. But I also wish we had some better target share numbers, knowing which guys are going to get the ball, who the real dominant guys are, basically in this offense. But yeah, so the next team we're going to go to, if I can get this off the board, is the San Francisco 49ers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and kind of going back to it, we talked about this being the highest total on the slate. Tampa Bay, just once again, just as bad as Indy, if not worse, at allowing passing yards and passing production. CMC is back this week. He's 8,000. I don't expect a full workload. I don't know the status of a Jordan Mason, but even if he does play, I would not play him because he's like basically every running back, even Isaac Guerrero, 6,400. So they're priced up everybody to where
as if
it's
CMC
or
wasn't
nobody.
Playing, right?
It's CMC or nobody, but CMC, I would just worry because it was both his Achilles that he might just get his like 15 touches, and that's a lot to ask for to return production for $8,000 running back. Debo, on the other hand, being 69 is pretty modest. Juwan Jennings, 51. Ricky Pearsall had a pretty solid game in this past one. And George Kittle, if you're looking for value on this slate, it's not here because George Kittle right now is the highest valued skill player on the entire slate, and he's one of the most expensive tight ends. So, I mean, there's not really much areas to go, but he's leading the all tight ends in the NFL by a wide margin with 6 touchdowns. Look at all the production and stuff. He's just been the one healthy guy.
So good.
And he's just been incredible off a bye. Good game environment for him. Travis Kelce just had a 14 reception, 100-yard game on Monday Night Football. So good game environment for him as well.
Yep. Let's pull these guys off. Let's go up to the next game. If you mid-tier guy or one mid-tier guy for Minnesota, Minnesota's been so good. They're playing a pretty awful Jacksonville team. So why not throw Sam Darnold into this talk? Aaron Jones has been good. And then, of course, you have to talk about Justin Jefferson when you get to these teams. Where is Jordan Addison? There he is. Naylor. Jordan Addison scored the touchdown this week. TJ Hawkinson is back. He will be the main guy. He only had 5.7 points this last game, but he is getting work back into that roster spot as much as possible.
This is one of those areas where I wouldn't force a double stack unless you were confident in Jordan Addison having a back-to-back solid game. But basically, it's just been Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones have been the main guys. And actually, Jacksonville has been worse against the run and opposed to the pass.
Right.
So Aaron Jones being 6,700 is a very, very good value for him. He hasn't scored in a couple of games in a row, but he's getting all the looks and all the touches despite Cam Akers getting traded for, but just 25 touches this past game. He just isn't scoring yet, but he also ran into some, Indy being only 3 yards to carry was not the most exciting thing, but is what it is. He's in a good spot this week to turn it around. Again, Justin Jefferson has not had a bad game this year. His bad game was 6 for 85, I believe. Was his worst game?
6 for 92.
Or 6 for 92, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong one. But has been over 15 fantasy points every game. Consistent as it is, as he is. Just best receiver in football.
He doesn't have to score to be good.
Yeah.
That's the part that's so cool. Because he's sitting over 20 points everywhere you look. And he scored some touchdowns, but look at this last game. No touchdown, 7 for 137. If he scores a touchdown there, he's breaking every slate.
What's funny is that he's only been double-digit targets in one game, and that one game, ironically, was his worst game of the season.
Yeah.
Every other game, he's been under 10 targets, and he's still putting up these numbers. So he's not even the high-volume one that we've seen with Kirk Cousins. But again, he's in a great spot. If you can get up to him, it's really tough this week. But if you just wanted to force, hey, I'm going this Minnesota direction, I don't fault you one bit.
Perfect. And then going to the next game, we got we have the other side of this game in Jacksonville. The reason, we got to talk about Jacksonville is just the pricing with the guys that are on here. Let me put Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby both in there. Come on. There we go. Talking about Brian Thomas, he's been amazing as a player, but Gabe Davis, questionable. Parker Washington at 3,900 is their next receiver. They have no one else. So that makes it really interesting because you get value. This is your value team without the value on RotoWire itself.
Right. And I feel like everybody's just going to be low owned. I think a lot of people will go to the Minnesota side, but nobody wants to bring it back with anything. Obviously, Travis Etienne came back and only had about 6 touches. Tank Bigsby was very inefficient with his 8 touches. Duke Johnson? Or I'm sorry,
No,
Dearness Johnson.
Yeah.
He had some look in the past game when they were trying to come back on Philly. So I don't trust that run game at all. But Brian Thomas Jr. actually finally had a dud. But his price rising to, I believe, his season high, or is tied for his season high with last week. I just feel like nobody's going to be on him. And he has been a big, deep threat all year that I think if he's 5% owned or less, I want some exposure to. And it's really easy to kind of get that way if you wanted to force a double for Trevor Lawrence, who has actually not been playing terribly. He had 2 rushing touchdowns this past week, but his price is down, I believe, to the lowest it's been all season. But 3 of his last 5, he's gone over 20. He hit 18 and 15 the other ones, and being under 5,500. All of that I will take.
I'm not against a single stack with Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas, and then bringing it back with either Aaron Jones or Justin Jefferson,
But I also wanted to point out that, we talked about Evan Ingram this past week and how he was by far the number 1 tight end in the 6-game sample size when Christian Kirk went down last year.
Right.
His first game was somewhat of a dud, but he had by far the most targets on the team. Nobody else, I believe, went over 5. He doubled that with 10. He just didn't really have the connection. It also was a tough matchup against Philly.
Yeah, for sure.
But, 3 of his last 4 since coming back from injury has been double-digit points. His price did not move. And, again, you have the sample size of him just being a tight end 1 overall without Christian Kirk. And, he's a guy that if you're doing a double, he's got to be one of those 2. That's what I want to get out.
Completely agree with that. Let's go over to the last guy on the list, where that one can go, and that one can go. I guess, one of the only 3:00 games we're going to talk about on our quarterbacks is the Chargers, who have been really good. Justin Herbert. I do want to preface this. His first 4 games, not helpful if you're playing fantasy. These last 4, man, he's been good. And Kamani Vidal, 5,200. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
come on, baby. Lab McConkey, Quentin Johnson had a 66-yard touchdown pass reception this last week. I'm not sure where you want to go, Will Dissly or Hayden Hurst, if you're going to play a tight end, but Will Dissly is going to be the guy most likely.
The problem with this, it's a true puke, not because of the quarterback talent, but it's just purely like, I don't know where he's throwing the damn ball to, because everybody only gets 5 to 7 targets,
right.
If that, on their good games. Lads had back-to-back games. He was a chalky week 8 play, and we were just like, I don't want a chalky, Lad McConkey, and he ends up going for his best game of his career so far.
Yep.
So he did well. Quinn Johnston has been a pretty solid boom guy.
Yeah.
He did miss a few weeks due to injury, but he also is only getting 5 targets a game, if that. And I believe he had by far, I think it was 30 more fantasy points via a busted coverage than the next best guy.
Right.
So a lot of his stuff is just coming off broken plays, not really earning it. But give credit where it's due. He's been solid. Josh Palmer, I like him. He just isn't getting the looks. Will Dissly, back-to-back games with solid targets. His price didn't rise at all, but he had a great game on Monday Night Football, and then he followed it up with a strong game on National Tight End Day. And then last week, only 3 targets, 2 for 9.
Yeah.
It's not that impressive. It's very uncomfortable to stack any of these guys, but Justin Herbert being a season low 52 when he's just starting to figure out, like you said, over the last 4, at least especially the last 3, but he's been playing incredibly as a quarterback.
Gross.
But he just has not had the touchdowns and stuff to produce because they were just grinded out 17 to 10 games. But now if you're starting to flirt with being a 2 touchdown stuff, Tennessee is really banged up on the back end of their defense. Run style wise, they are really good against the run. So if there's going to be a way that the Chargers put up points, it's going to start with this guy.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, like I was saying, look, 144, 130, 125, and then all of a sudden 349 against Arizona, 279 and 282.
Yeah, that's the one we know and love.
Yeah, like he's good at football. He's 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, he's just been, this is the perfect situation where you can say like this guy has been really good, and the stats don't have to show it. Like he's just been that's what they needed. Is just consistency like this.
And then also is worth noting, he did get banged up from an ankle sprain, and he re-aggravated it the next game. He didn't miss any time due to it, but that had a factor in his subpar play for a couple weeks as well.
Yep, absolutely. And then let's go to some running backs because we have some stud running backs that we want to talk about. Of course, the Saquon Barkleys of the world. He
Reverse hurdles,
yeah,
and
nuts, dude. Watched that live, and then everybody started posting it everywhere, and I was like, well, I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It was crazy play by him.
Him and Derrick Henry, I just wouldn't have thought that both of them would be, I think, running back number 1 and number 2 on the year. Both of them averaging over 24 a game. He's for 1,000 scrimmage yards already through 9 weeks is pretty impressive. And on top of that, A.J. Brown going down. On top of that, being a favorite against Dallas, who they should be playing from ahead.
Right.
Dallas has been way worse against the run than they have the past. I don't think that Micah coming back really makes a difference for Saquon. So I think he's a great standalone piece. If you can get up there, it's just really hard to afford a lot of studs this week is the only premise I have.
For sure. No, I don't disagree at all. But then the next guy, Bijan Robinson, going up. I mean, New Orleans has just been terrible. Absolutely terrible. Let me pull up the game log because I believe they've already played.
Yeah, that was the game that we did target Bijan, and for whatever reason, they only had like 15 rush attempts between both Bijan and Tyler Algier. But New Orleans since then has just been an absolute run funnel. Chuba Hubbard this past week on again, they came back and won, scored twice. You had J.K. Dobbins, had another solid performance. Javonte Williams had his first career 2-touchdown game against them. You had Sean Tucker being in $1 million line, while Bucky Irving also returning a ton of value. And then I think Kareem Hunt, his first 100-yard game, that was against New Orleans. So 5 straight games of just incredible stuff. And then Bijan is finally the Bijan that we've been wanting to see.
Sure.
He's been getting more and more look. His passing volume has been an awesome thing to see.
Woo-hoo.
And he's scoring touchdowns. 4 straight games of over 21 fantasy points, and just keep on giving him the ball because that is the only chance that you have to just continue being a dominant team.
Absolutely. Bijan is just good at football, man.
On top of that, for what it is worth, Drake London also left the game due to a hip pointer, and that's usually a day-to-day thing that it depends on how it heals over the week. So if there's one less guy to use in the offense, I think that just bodes more well for him. Breece Hall, another guy that against a good matchup with Arizona. He's a pass catching back that can score a ton of points. He actually was a dud for us this past, or at least 2 straight weeks. But this last week on the Thursday night breakdown that we had, because we didn't expect Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson to both catch 2 touchdowns, or 3 touchdowns between the two of them, have incredible games. But he's a great play as well. 7,600. I don't know how high owned he'll be, but Jonathan Taylor also, $5 running back. He had a tough matchup against Minnesota, but he's really good at football. One of my favorite running backs. And then I also did want to shout out because a couple of years ago, he had one of our 2%ers that we ended up playing. He had 5 touchdowns against Buffalo, and
amazing.
Buffalo was a top 5 run defense at the time. So there's if you want to even have any kind of narrative with that as well, he should be in a good bounce back spot. He's been over 100 yards. Like I believe it was 5 straight games before this past week, and last week it was just I don't have anything, and we know who's getting the ball. So
he's a 4-box running back because they will not be favored, but otherwise you're absolutely right. Everything points to the Jonathan Taylor show. Aaron Jones, a guy we talked about already, he's important on this slate. And then at 6,500, we got to talk about DeAndre Swift. Kareem Hunt is going to be a 5-box running back in that game. DeAndre Swift here is going to be a 5-box running back also. There's a couple good 5-box running backs.
We did pull out a thread of or a short of, hey, we're gonna have to start playing some DeAndre Swift. I'm glad we ended up not. He did okay.
The one game
with his 14 fantasy points, but that was breaking a 4 straight game streak of over 20. But like you said, getting all the work he can handle. He might be getting vultured some goal line touchdowns, but he's just not he's unopposed right now, especially in the passing game. So just keep on having those numbers up there. Going against New England, it's a good spot for him. So
for sure,
like him. And then also, what was our last one?
Najee.
Put out Najee just because Najee has 20 touches every week. They are coming off a bye, but 3 straight 100-yard games. He scored in 2 of those games, and
finally,
they're just using him like a running back in this contract year would.
Yes.
He is a guy that is going to have another great, statistical year.
Right.
And then we're immediately going to be one of our favorite fades because he's going to be a 5th rounder on our new team next year that probably drafted a really good running back in the 4th round that's going to eat touches from him, as the season goes on. But that's a time for another day. We're talking about right now. And this is a fun game to talk about just because I have no idea. I think it's going to be right down the middle in terms of
I don't know. I don't know who to pick.
Yeah, it's a not confident one, but it's a game that I really want to watch because it's the grinded out team that is just coming off a bye that's just well coached, but then Washington's the hottest team.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun for sure.
I hope it's a good game environment for both teams to prosper, but yeah, Najee you can't ignore the usage that he's at.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to add if Brian Robinson's out again, Austin Eckler's in play at 5,800 on the opposite side of that game.
Yeah.
The last guy that we're going to talk about is $4,700 Tyjae Spears. He is, when he plays, he's, can get, good stats. Tony Pollard was injured before the game, played this last week, so
no all the touches.
No Julian Chestnut or
Julius
Chestnut. Okay.
Yeah, I had the typo on the tweet, but yeah, Tajay, that just is the epitome. Once again, 3rd straight week, there's no value down low, and so also we don't even know if he's going to play. It is off a hamstring injury, but he has the double-digit point upside, and he's cheap as he has been all season. Not a great matchup, but it's just I'm trying to find you guys some value. It's just not really there, especially at running back this week.
Absolutely. Let's make some lines. We'll talk about some other guys as we make lines, but what quarterback do you want to start with, Cam?
Ooh,
I'm gonna play a puke stack. So
you're gonna do a puke? Yeah. Well, let's do a. Oh man, let's start with a 49er.
Okay.
49er stack.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
All right. You don't want to stack Christian McCaffrey this week?
No, I don't.
You want Debo?
I think I want a Debo and a Kittle. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that Ricky Pearsall is the most interesting player on that team.
Okay.
Because of him playing, he's going to get 80+% of the snaps with just natural. He will be the number 2 in this offense, especially if either Jawan or, well, actually, I think Christian McCaffrey is the number 2, but you know what I mean. Either Jawan or Debo do sit, that would be even more.
Okay. But, well, if we got to squeeze value in later, we'll fit him in. But trying to do the expensive guys up top. Like I said, 5,800 George Kittle is the highest value
right.
wire, so it's just kind of one of those things where we're going to have to get ugly real fast.
Tampa Bay.
Well, so right now, if I had to pick a Tampa Bay guy to bring back with, it would probably be. I know you want it to be a Kate Otten, but I think I would probably lean towards Sterling Shepard.
Okay.
Right now, he's 4,100. Obviously, these prices came out before the Monday night played, but he had by far the most usage. I know Jarrett ended up with the most snaps with Jalen McMillan out, but he had the most usage. I believe he had 8 opportunities, some running game work, and 4,100. And I'm trying.
Yeah, fair enough. Defense? Do you have a defense that you want to? Where am I going?
Well, defense is kind of little all over the place. I don't really have a huge lean. I think kind of living in that 29 to 30.
Yeah, that's fair.
100 range is kind of where I'd side. So, for example, Washington and Pittsburgh, if you think it's a low total, whoever you picking to win, it's probably a good spot for them. Chicago.
That's what I was looking at.
Was the one that I'm looking at in a great environment against Drake May. So that's probably where I would go.
No, I love that. I love Chicago there. They're just so good at defense. They're fun to watch. They've held everybody. They just need some scoring on offense. Next game or next spot you want to get to?
All right. Well, I want to ask you what running backs you really love this week because I know we talked about some studs up top. I only think we can afford one with this build, if that. Is there one you had a preference with?
I think I want to play. I think I want to play the Minnesota game.
Okay.
So I want to probably go with Aaron Jones here.
All right.
He is a 4-box running back because he's not at home.
But good game environment. So.
Yeah. You know, he's a guy that I think you can also stack, secondary stack here with either Brian Thomas or Evan Ingram. We already have a tight end. If you want to go double tight end, you could do that here. But
we could. But I think I want to go with
or Parker Washington.
because he is showing some value, still being under 4,000. He led the receivers in targets
Right.
with this past game, and I just kind of feel like it's him, it's Evan, it's Brian Thomas. So I want some Brian Thomas this week, but with this line especially, we can't really go that far.
We could go up and try to get another stud in this. I think in this situation, if you wanted to.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to lean that way.
Which stud do you like the most? Because I picked mine already.
I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor.
If you think if Aaron Jones is priced enough to get it be considered a stud.
I hope that his ownership is lower than what it deserves to be. RotoWire, let me actually see.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, this isn't accurate because I don't think 27% are going to pick Christian McCaffrey, but it is worth noting between Bijan, Breece Hall, you got to go way down to get Jonathan Taylor, which right now is showing 11%.
Wow.
So if it's even lower than that, he's not even in the top 8 among running back ownership. So that's why I kind of like going that direction.
Well, just so you know, Christian McCaffrey's rostered 27% of the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if
that
many
seems
people are going
really
to get
wrong,
yeah.
in my opinion. I was going to say you could do the bring back right here with Keon Coleman and finish that line out. It would be very correlated. It's a good way to start, I guess, on a line, or you can pick somewhere else to go. DeAndre Hopkins
I think that's where I was kind of leaning. DeAndre Hopkins, he's just priced too low because it was in a Monday night game. But at the same time, tough matchup. So if you didn't want to go that route, I understand.
I think Keon Coleman, though, if you did want to get the stack, the secondary stack between Buffalo and Indy, because you just got Jonathan Taylor, it makes sense too.
Gotcha.
But yeah. So that's our first look for a Brock Purdy lineup. You could always go down to Ricky Pearsall, but if you like this setup, I think this is a really nice line. I'm going to clear it. I'm going to go to my quarterback, which is going to be the Justin Herbert, 52. Wow, Emery. Oh, my goodness. 5,200 here.
I'm interested to see if how you'd like you're going to stack this, or is it just going to be a one-off kind of thing?
No, I'm going to do 2.
Okay.
I'm going to do Ladd McConkey because he's getting expensive, though. 5,900 is starting to push it for where I'm comfortable. But luckily, everybody else is cheap for that team. So Quinn Johnston's my bring back, or my second one in that game, stack-wise. I'm going to go put Chicago in. 3,000.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those games kind of similar to where we saw a chalky Bo Nix a couple weeks ago. And we were just like, he's one of the highest owned quarterbacks, but nobody's stacking him with anybody.
Right.
Well, right now, Justin Herbert is one of, I believe, 4 quarterbacks that are showing north of 10%, and no skill player for the Chargers is above 9. Mm-hmm. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins and Ladd are up top, but they're both tied for 8.6% ownership. J.K. is not somebody you're going to really stack with Justin Herbert anyways, but yeah, Ladd is probably the preference. And then Quinn Johnston all the way down at 4% ownership for what it's worth. Nobody's on Josh Palmer. Nobody's on Will Dissly. If you get a weird Hayden Hurst or I don't even know the next.
Luckily, Donald Parham doesn't play for them anymore.
Right.
So we can't get sniped on 2 touchdowns. But yeah, I think this is a good start. I'm going to actually go Calvin Ridley for my bring back. He's been consistently okay. Kind of, getting the targets. So now we just need to catch some of them. 26 points, though. If we can get that upside, that'd be really cool in a game where if they want to force him the ball, it wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
Now, I'm going to go and grab his ex-teammate where am I at tight end? Just kidding. Let's go ahead and go to ex-teammate in DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay.
So I'll have that. I'm getting to a point where I have enough money to get 2 studs. That's kind of the plan here.
While also affording a stud tight end.
Yes. Is fun. Yes. Which will be Kyle Pitts. No, just kidding. I don't know which tight end I want here. I think that's an interesting kind of topic, is because I like Cade Otton a lot at 5,500. I like George Kittle. I like Kelsey, but I'm not playing Kelsey with.
Yeah, double Kansas City. Yeah, it'd be tough.
No quarterback.
Trey McBride has had 2 touchdowns. Neither are receiving touchdowns this year. I don't know if you saw the viral clip, but he was wide open on a play action pass that Kyler just did not want to throw him the ball.
It's fine.
And
he's
going to just have to have rushing touchdowns and fumble recovery touchdowns to return value, but his price didn't go up. But he's been solid. Evan Ingram, like I mentioned, he's just going to have 8 to 10 targets.
I think I
George
want to
Kittle.
go with George Kittle.
Yeah. Okay.
But if we want to go down,
71.
yeah, because that's not as comfortable as I was hoping for.
That leaves the same two that we just picked, which is Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor. But if you wanted to do a couple others just to be different,
Yeah.
that's fine as well.
I think I'm going to change George Kittle out. Let's go to Evan Ingram because I love his target share.
Okay.
And go down. Why are you going up? And there we go. And then that allows me to go up to, I have 73.50 there. I want Bijan. I was going to say Aaron.
Go with Aaron as a running back of Evan. Aaron and Evan.
Aaron and Evan. Yeah, that was. I kind of want to do. Well, I want to get to Saquon too. Let's go Saquon.
Okay.
6,400.
That's.
I guess Najee. Yeah, no. I guess Najee.
Yeah.
It's not as comfortable as I wanted it to be. All right, we're gonna go Aaron Jones because I'm not comfortable there, and then we're gonna put in Bijan against New Orleans. They're just gonna beat the crap out of them. So I like this how this like kind of worked out. I like getting Evan Ingram, and then I like getting a couple stud running backs, DeAndre Hopkins, the whole group. So yeah,
it's pretty solid. Pretty kind of down the middle. Other than affording some stud running backs, kind of right in the middle of the field. Other than if you wanted to go to receivers real quick, like Justin Jefferson, like I mentioned, 8,800. But then you got CeeDee Lamb with Cooper Rush. He's also injured. AJ Brown injured. Devontae Smith, I was really going to be interested in playing this week because basically every game he's played against Dallas, he has scored.
right.
Or last week or last matchup. Last year, I believe Christmas Eve is when he had his 2-touchdown, 100-yard game and, won a lot being a low own. But him being 7,800, really tough to get to. So he might be a if-then statement with A.J. Brown's status. But then after that, it's just, man, McLaurin, 73, that's tough. Garrett Wilson or Devontae, do you have faith in either in that environment? Maybe, maybe not. But then a lot of Q tags in there, a lot of bad spots.
Tough. It's super tough up top.
I also want to just mention because every time nobody wants to play Marvin Harrison Jr., he goes off.
He's so cheap.
But it's the cheapest he's been. It's the cheapest he's been. Jets are number one against receivers. But the last two times that nobody wanted to play him, he went for 100 yards and a score in so-so matchups just because he was cheap. So just want to throw his name out there because I might force us to play some of him later in the week.
Fine with that. Let me stop. Do you want to make any other lines?
I think we'll be good here for now. There's
it's
a lot
of it's a tough
play, but a lot of Q tags that kind of got to get figured out. But yeah, I think like the directions we were going with those two for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Go check out our Thursday Night Football. Go check out our power rankings video. This will actually come out after Thursday Night Football. Power rankings video comes out though. Came out yesterday for this video, and then go look at all of our college football stuff. Hang out with us on Sunday morning. We start at 9:00 for our live streams every week. We give all of our information, and if you want the lines, you have to be in the Discord because we will actually send them in there. So
right, yeah, we're hoping that a lot more opens up later in the week, but even if it doesn't, everybody's feeling the same way. So it's a good kind of get back spot. Man, was kind of rough for me this past week. I'm ready to turn it around, and the ugly kind of weeks are usually when those kinds of things happen.
Absolutely. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Comment some of the guys that you want to get to. It's really going to be hard to find chalk on this slate, which is good. It's a good thing, but it also makes it a little bit more interesting with who everybody wants to play. And tell us some of y'all's stands, who y'all are getting to, contrarian plays, and everything like that. Right. So we appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next time.